La 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 la. Oh, do 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 do. Da da. Whoa! Hello there. Yeah, Helen. You dropped in on the site on YouTube a little early, so I hope you have come back at 8 o'clock your time, which is great. Yeah, that's super. So I'm going to try it again with the comment window in the scene, but I just do have to adjust this a little bit. Yeah, I think that will be better. And I can move it over a bit. There we go. And she's back. Well, that's great. That is great. Okay. So who knows whether this will work and these comments will show up in the live chat or in the window on YouTube, because I was doing it for a couple of weeks and then it stopped. I can see your comments, Helen. They're right in the window of the, they're right in this the movie screen that we've got here, but they take up about a third of the screen. So I'm hoping they'll be visible, but it's an odd it's an odd thing about this trying to do this a different way, and I'm not sure how much success. However, by next week I'm hoping to be able to restream, which means we'll be able to go to YouTube, to Facebook, to a number of places all at the same time, so people can watch from wherever they're comfortable. And I'm glad you sorted out the time change. That's great. Anyway, hey, all you hip chicks and hep cats. Anine, bonjour, I'm Catherine M. Thompson. We're going to get started with the land acknowledgement. I acknowledge that this event, this Monday Live in my home, sits on the treaty territories of the Credit First Nation, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and 6 nations of the Grand River. I'm tongue-tied today, as well as the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat confederacies, and the lands of many other Indigenous people who passed through or who called and still call this land their home. This territory is part of the Dish with One Spoon Treaty, an agreement between the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. In making this statement, I acknowledge and honor that these lands carry the wisdom of the ancestors whose spirits live on in the soil, animals, and vegetation. In stepping on this land, we speak both forgiveness and permission from these ancestors, with the agreement that we have the responsibility to honor and respect all who are here now and all who have yet to come, recognizing that in many ways these lands remain restricted from teachings, resources, and development in partnership with Indigenous peoples. And we're grateful for the opportunity we have to live, to receive gifts from, and to work on and benefit from this land. And I left a part of that out. So in making this statement, I acknowledge and honor that these lands carry the truth of the lives that were taken and the agreements that were broken. And I did want to mention that the research into the I'm really tongue-tied today. The residential schools, these burial graves, or these unmarked graves that they believe they've found with the ground-penetrating radar. That research goes on, and it's going to take several years because it's like an archaeological dig, and it's. But it's important, really important. And of course, the other thing is, and I'm wearing my blue today, and I've got my yellow room around me, and that is that I stand with Ukraine. So I'm going to have a look at what you're saying here. A Cancerian Southern Comfort over double ice wearing a gentleman jack hat. Oh, great. Wishes you all a good evening while waiting for a song to start. Oh, I'll start in a minute. Yeah, it must have been disappointing if you showed up like an hour too early or whatever. So I don't know when you do the time change, Helen, but if you do go into, I can't remember from when we visited so many years ago, if you do change to daylight savings, then don't forget there's going to be another switch, like maybe till 9 o'clock or something like that on your side of the pond, as they say. I'm very funny today. Today is Monday, March the 21st, 2022, and that was the photo of the maple syrup moon that I took one night last week. In Anishinaabemowin, as I've learned in class, it is Ziishbaakdoke-Giizis. Oh, I'm still really bad at this. But that is the name of the moon in March, and it means maple syrup moon, and the sky was clear and sunny today, and it just clouded over like right this minute. Oh my goodness, I was getting so warm setting up that I had to take one of my t-shirts off. The link that you go to take you here will take you to the video on my YouTube channel, Catherine M. Thompson, Cat's Cupboard, once this show is over and they've posted the video to it. I also wanted to remind you that you will see down at the bottom, well, it's at the bottom right of my screen, which is the wrong direction, right there. It says paypal.me/Catherine M. Thompson. Will get you any tips that you send to me or any other kind of support that I get will help me cover the cost of music and lyric videos. And I have to wait until it's safe for me to go places because I need a video. I'm hoping that Joan Prowse can help me with this, of the Hamilton Hoppers swing dancing, because that will go in the chorus of Swing Daddy. For the rest of the verses, I think I've got all the photographs that I need, and she'll help me with that. So spring has sprung, and all the songs and covers and poetry will be about, or at least mention, spring to welcome it in. In fact, I have a couple of little short, tiny little stories, personal stories. And I will be singing my April-October song pretty much. It's my song of the season, Breathtaking Gown, for the next few weeks. I used to call it April-October song when I first wrote it. And so I'm going to sing Breathtaking Gown. Now, it usually goes spring to fall, but I'm going to see if I can reverse it and sing fall to spring, because that's where we are now. And one little quick story before we do that is that, and the reason I called it the April-October song is one October, driving to work down in the Niagara Peninsula, I don't know what year it was, a long time ago, I drove past one of the farmers' fields that had been let go fallow, and it was just, wasn't covered, but there was just great numbers of the wild purple asters that we have here. And so that started my fall verse, which is, fields that lie fallow are purple with aster. And I kept trying to write the second half of the song. And I just, it was like, nah, that's whatever, it's not working. So one spring, several years later, one April, I was driving from Niagara District Secondary School up to Brock University, driving past some orchards, and there was the peaches, they were already pink. And I'm sure maybe it was cherry or something, but anyway, pink blossoms. And so then I thought, oh, trees in the orchards are bursting with blossoms. And I wrote the verse, and I thought, oh, oh my God, I plagiarized somebody for this tune. And it took me a while to figure out I was plagiarizing myself. It was the other half. Finally, after several years, I got the other half of the song. Helen says, Debbie and Sam and Ryan and Steve and Mike and Julie and Stacy and Jill and Karen and Hazel and James send you a wave. They watch from the class. Whoa, that's fantastic. Oh, and Marianne, you're here too. I wonder if I can scroll up and see if I've missed anyone. I hope you can see my comments. Yes, I have. Okay, that's terrific. So this is working, and that's great. And yeah, Marianne, I'm glad you're here too. That's amazing. Okay, so we're going to do Breathtaking Gown. have to do a couple of things like turn off the airport, and then I will turn it back on, because this is the only backing track song I'm doing today. Fields that lie fallow are purple with aster, grasses have dried and stand golden and brown. Corn streamers rustle, all crisp in the breezes. Fall is at hand, and the leaves are come down. All clear are the dawnings, all fresh are the mornings. The sun sets in glory each night o'er the town. Each sign speaks of winter, but speaks with such splendor that nature greets death in a breathtaking gown. All clear are the dawnings, all fresh are the mornings. The sun sets in glory each night o'er the town. Each sign speaks of winter, but speaks with such splendor that nature greets death in a breathtaking gown. Trees in the orchards are bursting with blossoms. Birds have returned, and their songs fill the sky. Fields are fresh turned, and the grasses are greening. Time for the planting, for springtime is nigh. All dewy the dawning, all misty the morning. The sun sets in glory each night o'er the town. Each sign speaks of summer and whispers it's coming, while nature greets life in a breathtaking gown. All dewy the dawnings, all misty the mornings. The sun sets in glory each night o'er the town. Each sign speaks of summer and whispers it's coming, while nature greets life in a breathtaking gown. And that is Breathtaking Gown. It is on Celtic Cat, and that, of course, is a Chris Burkett arrangement, but what was really lovely is that we had Matt Gerber play his mandolin, and Chris gave it this wonderful arrangement that reminds me of, it always reminds me of Minuet. You know, it's very kind of a really old folk song sounding song. And I have to tell you that I woke up this morning, and the allergies that I have go on through into May, because my final allergy of this long season of mine is tree pollen. So once the tree pollen gets going, you'll hear some very interesting squawks out of me, but I managed to get rid of that laryngitis, which is just great. Miss Catherine, you could be on the English Morse singing with that in a period dress with your own Mr. Dorsey. That was wonderful. Well, Darcy, yeah. So Helen, just wait until June, early June, because I will put up my, that's so funny. I'll put up the picture of me in my wedding gown, which was actually made in 1874 in Scotland. And when it was photographed, the photographer said, oh, it's like Jane Eyre crossing the moors to Mr. Darcy. Not Mr. Darcy, no. It wasn't to Rochester. So I've got two things mixed up. Yes, Darcy is, yeah, I get you. That is Pride and Prejudice, Darcy is. But it's sort of the same idea, I would think. So, yeah, I've said hello to you guys and stuff. Anyway, I wanted to tell you a little personal story. This whole business about the spring and everything. This brings to mind a story from about 50 years ago, almost 50 years ago. Tomorrow is Megan's 50th birthday. She's my eldest child, and she was born in a little village at the western tip of southwestern Ontario, which is usually about 5 degrees centigrade, or Celsius, I should say, warmer than Toronto, which is the area I live in. And however, March weather brought a driving snow in the wee hours that day when we drove a few country miles to the only hospital in the region that allowed dads to be in delivery. So she was born at midday, and we were rooming in for a few days. And yeah, we weren't quite at the point where women were having babies at home when I had my kids. But the hospital had rooming in. It was quite lovely. And a lovely nurse on nights helped tremendously with nursing and that. And so the next day at dawn, on the 23rd, I was sitting by a window nursing Megan. And out the window, and this is still like there's snow on the ground, right? And out the window, I saw the first robin of that spring, sitting singing. He was singing at the tip of a tree branch, and it seemed a lovely omen of new life. Now I have to say, this year we got robins, one robin here before the beginning of March. I'm sure it was in February still, so that's really strange. And they're different than English robins. Our robins are, they're bigger and they have a very russet breast. See, we think alike. Yeah, we do. That's funny. Okay, so I'm just going to put my website up because I know you guys have seen it a million times, but I do want anybody who's dropping in on these who hasn't joined yet to please join my email list for the latest news. I managed to remember today. Got the letter out very late, but I am managing to send the letter with the link and everything to this show out to my little tiny group on there. And I'm taking an email boot camp on the weekend. Well, it's actually a fan boot camp, but my aim is to get all my followers together on one list. And believe me, what happens is you ended up with them sort of spread all over the place because, well, I don't know really why. Come up there. But, you know, I've got followers on Facebook. I've got followers on Instagram. I've got followers of my music page. I have followers and fans in Reverb Nation and on Twitter, which is, interestingly enough, that's where most of the people who come to this are Twitter people, which is fantastic. But it does really make me wonder who's getting, let know about this on Facebook. And so, and YouTube is another place where I have followers. So I'm going to try to get all of those into an email list on my website so that I can communicate with everyone all at once. And I'm hoping that this boot camp on the weekend will help. So, this is just the very beginning of spring. And in fact, spring didn't used to start until Megan was born on the first day of spring back in 50 years ago. So, it takes a while. And not everyone is bursting with happiness every spring. In spring a young man's fancy and all that kind of stuff. But some people, just get quite melancholy at this time of year. Maybe it's the change of time. I don't know. So there's a couple of Richard Rogers songs that are about spring, but are also a little melancholy. The first is Spring Is Here, which is sung by Sinatra, Julie London, at a snail's pace. I couldn't even listen to it. She was so slow. So I like Ella Fitzgerald and Audra McDonald, if you're going to have a listen, if you want to hear the song. Ella, of course, sings very naturally. Audra sings quite much operatic almost, and they sing both the verse and the bridge, because what, of course, a lot of people don't realize when they're listening to the American songbook songs is that parts, the verse and the bridge at the beginning of songs are invariably dropped as the songs become standards. So a lot of the standards that people sing are actually, you know, it's just the chorus and all the repeats and variations of the chorus. So I might end up reading the verse and the bridge, but I'm going to give it a try here. Once there was a thing called spring, when the world was writing verses like yours and mine. All the lads and girls would sing when we sat at little tables and drank May wine. Now April, May, and June are slightly out of tune. Life has stuck a pin in the balloon. Spring is here. Why doesn't my heart go dancing? Spring is here. Why isn't the waltz entrancing? No desire, no ambition leads me. Maybe it's because nobody needs me. Spring is here. Why doesn't the breeze delight me? Stars appear. Why doesn't the night invite me? Maybe it's because nobody loves me. Spring is here. I hear da 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 da. Spring is here. Why doesn't my heart go dancing? Spring is here. Why isn't the waltz entrancing? No desire, no ambition leads me. Maybe it's because nobody needs me. Spring is here. Why doesn't the breeze delight me? Stars appear. Why doesn't the night invite me? Maybe it's because nobody loves me. Spring is here, I hear. Okie dokie. So yeah, it's starting to creep back. I gotta get my tea and honey here. Oh, and I don't know how much you can see. If I move that out of the way, I have my amaryllis behind it, and we have a pot of daffodils, the first daffodils of the year. It's quite wonderful. Oh, that tea has helped. And of course now the, oh, this is ridiculous. How come I don't have any light? Oh, well, there we go. I'm back. That was funny. It got very dark for a minute. Okay. So that is Spring is Here, a version of it, my current version of it. And Mr. Darcy, Mr. Rochester, they're both lovely. You could even tame Heathcliff, Miss Catherine. Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not sure you'd want to tame Heathcliff. Kathy, I think, loved him because of his wildness, but of course, he becomes quite a brute in the end of it. Right, and you liked that, Helen, that's great. Oh, my sad, yes, it is. You know, I have a family who suffers sad, actually, and it's the light, the morning, they get that light that they sit in front of early in the morning for half an hour, and it seems to help a great deal. So I'm going to that's the tongue-tied business. I'm going to read my melancholy spring poem Don't worry, we'll get livelier as the spring goes along. This is called Spring Morning, and it's spelled M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G. And I wrote it, I don't know, I was someplace walking through a public garden, and it came to me. The air I breathe is soft and sweet and still. Fruit trees blossom, trembling on the hill. Dogwood gleams ghostly in the dell. The sunlight filters through, and oh, the laughing of the brook, the songbird's longing trill. I walk on through this rebirth, I smell the pungent earth newly turned across the meadow. And who would ever know that you had left me here alone to witness all the world reborn and our love freshly killed? So how's that? How's that for sad? Marianne, that is a sad one. Oh, I'm having trouble with getting myself so I'm not disappearing behind your comments. So this is another standard. It's another standard. Sad song, but sang with such passion. Oh, well, I hope so. Now this first verse, the verse of this, okay, I should mention, yes. And go back to Spring is Here. Now that was written, Lyric Find mentions the songwriter Hans Bielek. I'm not sure about that. This is for Spring is Here. I know it was written by Richard Rogers, and I believe that the other writer, his partner, was Lawrence Hart. It was Rogers and Hart's song. However, because I looked it up in Wikipedia. They can't be wrong, can they? Okay, so this one, It Might As Well Be Spring, was written by Richard Rogers and Oscar Hammerstein. And it was written for the musical State Fair. I don't know who the actor was in the actress was in the YouTube that I watched to learn this verse, but it's all intertwined with dialogue. So that may be one of the reasons why the song beyond the verse was what became standardized. But it is part of the song. The things I used to like, I don't like anymore. I want a lot of other things I've never had before. It's just like my mama says, I sit around and mope, pretending I'm so wonderful and knowing I'm a dope. I'm as restless as a willow in a windstorm. I'm as jumpy as a puppet on a string. I'd say that I have spring fever, but I know it isn't spring. I am as starry-eyed and gravely discontented, like a nightingale without a song to sing. Oh, why should I have spring fever when it isn't even spring? I keep wishing I were somewhere else, walking down a strange new street, hearing words I've never ever heard from a man I've yet to meet. I'm as busy as a spider spinning daydreams. I'm as giddy as a baby on a swing. I haven't seen a crocus or a rosebud or a robin or a bluebird on the wing, but I feel so gay in a melancholy way that it might as well be spring. It might as well. It might as well be. It might as well be spring. And I thought it was okay to sing that song today because it's just the beginning of spring. It's not quite here yet, even though, the date has changed. It was the 20th that it started. The first day of spring was the 21st. And, but they say that meteorologically, that's it, winter is January, February, March, and spring is April, May, and June, and summer is July, August, September, etc. So I will say it's not quite spring yet, at least not here. We're just getting there. Nothing is blooming outside yet, that's for sure. Well, I think if you have snowdrops or aconite, you will find them blooming. And maybe some bleeding hearts. You know, this is so strange. It actually shows up okay usually, but I'm just going to turn a light on. And it is actually, you know, so frustrating because I haven't had that problem with you agree, Marianne, that's lovely, guys. So it's 4:30, but I've got another little story, and it's very short. It's not really a story, but something to do with, if we go back to if you imagine back at that maple syrup moon. So if you have any curiosity about the Anishinaabe methods of making maple syrup in March, which go back long before colonialization, we took two of Megan's kids, actually, we took them to Bronte Creek Provincial Park, which is here in Burlington, and we took them, that was a few years ago during their March break, which just ended, by the way, and where we took a walk through the sugar bush, and it was kind of a tour, or there were speakers at each spot. They had these demonstrations, and so the walk paused, and they would explain what they were doing and how they were making the maple syrup. And so it started with methods used by Indigenous people before colonialization, which was very interesting. And you know, they kept a fire going. Somebody had to feed the fire, and they had a vessel into which the collected sap would be poured, which is just like water, by the way. In fact, it's called sweet water. And then there were, I think that one of the things they did was to put the heated rocks up in the fire as well, and they would put the rocks into this big wooden, you know, heavy wooden vessel, a huge big thing. And gradually, you know, it would take a long time, but they kept adding syrup and adding syrup and adding sap, and it gradually cooked down. And then as we went along the path, you know, there were more and more sort of modern through the timeline until we got to the place where there were, you know, there were methods that are used in the sugar bush, in the sugar shacks nowadays. So JD got all keen, and we thought that, well, I won't say we thought, he thought that a couple of the trees down at the back corner of the yard were sugar maples. And so he got all the equipment, and he tapped them, and he collected the sap and put it in we had the barbecue going out there, but of course neither one of us were prepared to stay up all night. So I really think the main thing was it just didn't get cooked down long enough. It was too watery. It didn't taste very mapley. It was fine. I mean, it tasted, I don't think it was going to poison us or anything, but it didn't seem to be any way that we could do it better. So maybe there's some kind of electronic maple syrup maker that you can buy and keep plugged in 24/7 or something like that. But I think for sure if he's gonna do it again, he's gonna make sure that he's at a couple of sugar maple trees. If neighbors have them, we might ask for, you know, to use them. So it's fun. So we are absolutely at the. I just wanted to mention this as well. I stopped before I got to the end of the story. So it was all very interested, and it ended up with maple syrup lollies being made on clean snow, and it was just really fascinating. The kids each got a stick with kind of a hardened maple syrup on it, and they ate that. And then of course there was a pancake lunch, and kind of like the one we had yesterday, because I did make pancakes for lunch with maple syrup, so that's great. That's it for the live today. Thank you so much for being here, and miigwech. You know, it's a really weird thing about that word. That is the first Anishinaabemowin word I learned. It means thank you, and it's miigwech, and I always flip the vowels. So, miigwech. See you next Monday. Bamapi. Going off now. And thank you, Helen and Marianne, for being here.